welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time, hello. My name is Francis, and I used to be a traditional Catholic priest. I know, by looking at me now, you would never guess, but I promise. I have photos. So today's going to be another commentary type video. I'm not a professional reviewer. I didn't study filmography or cinematography or anything like that. But sometimes a series hits home so much that I want to talk about it. And because I've talked the ear off of all the people around me, I thought that I could talk your ear off too. The other day I was perusing the immense selection of movies and videos that nobody really wants to see on Netflix, and I saw a series called Midnight Mass, and I thought it was just another stupid B horror movie because it's Halloween time. Oh boy, was I wrong. From the first scene to the last, I was freaked out. Not because it was a good horror movie, which it did have really good parts, and not because there were a bunch of jump scares. No, it scared me because it portrayed an insular Catholic community so well that I felt this haunting sense of nostalgia. I can't imagine somebody who wasn't brought up Catholic or had some sort of exposure to Catholicism and the ideas would understand really what was happening in this series. From an outside perspective, they would just see a ultra religious cult infiltrated by evil, and they tried to twist reality to fit into their religious principles. But if you understand Catholicism and understand exactly the language that they're using, you realize, oh boy, this is so much worse. And also the different characters, and I met people who were like all of these characters. You have the people who are just trying to figure things out in life, and they go along with their religion because it was all that they know. You have the people who fell away from the religion and come back and are shamed. And then you have the people who are very diligent and they put themselves on a pedestal in front of everyone else and subtly judge everyone in every single word that they say. And then you have the priest who, although he doesn't have the answers to everything, he has to portray himself like he does, that he's in control. It's super interesting, and I think that anybody who doesn't want to get any sort of spoilers, they should watch the series and then come back and watch this video. Like I've done in other commentary videos, it's not going to be specifically about the story and analyzing the people from a more objective sense. It's going to be, as a former Catholic priest, what was my impression of the story? What was my perspective? What did I get out of the story? So I did a quick search, and it turns out Mike Flanagan, who is the director of this series and also of The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, was a Catholic, and he was an altar server. So for all those Catholics out there who are watching the series and think, wow, this is really on point, that's why. So the series takes place on Crockett Island, and there are many different people on there, Catholics of different degrees. There's a Muslim family. There are apostates, so people who don't go to church. There are just other people of different religions on there, but the majority of the people go to the Catholic Church, St. Patrick's. And with the coming of a new priest for the parish, after having an old Monsignor for so many years, things begin to change within the island. There are some miraculous, unexplainable events that happen in everyone's lives, especially the ones who are receiving communion every day and going to Mass. And for the most part, the people interpret these events to be undeniable proofs that God is working through this minister, and that the people of Crockett Island have been chosen to begin a sort of new covenant between God and man. Ever hear that phrase, it's just too good to be true? You're just too good to be true. I can't take my eyes off of you. So I began the series in chapter 1, singing along with the processional hymn in the Mass. It was Faith of Our Fathers.
Faith of our fathers living still.
In spite of dungeon, fire, and sword. It creeped me out. And because I came from a traditional Catholic community, we sang all of the pre-1960s hymns. We had all of the ceremonies. Our masses were in Latin, all of that. And one of the songs in our little church, which very much resembled the church from this series, we sang Faith of Our Fathers. I used to know all the words. I've forgotten them by now. But imagine how creepy that was to put on Netflix and then start singing a hymn that was in one of the series. Even the way that they portrayed the community life between the members of that parish, it brought back so many memories. There's a character, the main character named Riley, and he escaped from the island when he was old enough and began a life outside of the island, outside of his family, that parish, a life of the world. And he ended up getting into a drunk driving accident that he was the cause of, and he killed somebody, and his whole life was destroyed. So he was forced to come back to the island. He is a disappointment to his family, especially his father, because he is a self-proclaimed atheist.
So church isn't for you, huh? No, it's not for me. You should sit back then, assuming you haven't been to confession, and I'm assuming you haven't.
Although he doesn't believe anymore, he is asked by his father and mother to go to Mass. So he goes to appease them. And when it is time to receive communion, which for Catholics means that you are okay with God, you're in the state of grace, he doesn't believe anymore. He hasn't been to confession. So he sits down, and the look that his mother gives him, that shock and that sense of disappointment, was so relatable. It doesn't become just a personal issue between you and God. No, everyone in the parish can see the ones who do not go up to communion, which means that there's a problem, which means that you sinned, that you didn't go to confession, that there's something wrong with you. So everyone sees that, everyone notices. And in the series, it's brought up 3 times that Riley didn't go up for communion.
I noticed you sat back for communion. It got rather quiet, didn't it?
I saw you sit back during communion.
It's fine. Most guys find Jesus in prison.
Well, you always went your own way.
This really stuck with me, and it's something that I've thought about a lot before, and something that I posted on social media today. You can follow me if you want. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I am Judas Project. I try to put up something every day, but life is busy. The idea that Riley had 2 options. He could go to communion, he could put a smile on his face so that his mom and dad would think that nothing has changed, that he was still a believer, that he wasn't an atheist. Or he could do what he did, which is be authentic and say, sorry, I don't believe. I still respect you. It's not spitting in your face, but I'm going to go to Mass to make you happy. I'm going to go to a certain limit, but to cross that line, I can't do it. As the parents, what would you prefer in somebody? And it's interesting because everybody in the community has a different expectation, a different level, that this level is a good Catholic, or this level is a good Catholic, or this level is a good Catholic. So everyone just sitting around judging everyone else, saying that they're not up to par. And those who do not meet those expectations are slowly ostracized from the community, even if it's with a smile. And I'm sure anyone, even if you're not Catholic, can understand the character of Bev Keane, who basically walks around as a nun, as a self-proclaimed holy person who is very close to the priest, who helps out, who's always going to church, who is always in charge of everything.
We are living in a miraculous time on Crockett Island. There are actual bona fide miracles happening before our eyes at St. Patrick's.
And constantly refers to quotes from the Bible, who constantly refers everything to a scripture quote.
The man who acts presumptuously by not obeying the priest who stands to minister there before the Lord your God, that man shall die.
Who constantly justifies their actions, even if they're bad, by some sort of religious doctrine. At the same time, in their language, acting like they're the worst, acting like they are in no position to make any sort of judgment. The woman who played Bev was brilliant. I think anybody who watched the series hated her. And it's interesting the development step by step you see in her character, where there's things that happens that she doesn't understand or which are unexplainable, which are good. Like the miracles that were happening, the miracles, she just automatically refers to God and God's will and that God is blessing them, this special community. And as things are getting worse and worse and blatantly evil, she still has that religious perspective. She doesn't understand it, but she can quote some reference from the Bible in order to make herself feel good about it.
God has a plan. He's working through him, and we are to do our part, to witness and do our part.
So I don't want to give everything away because I really want people to watch it, but this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler. The priest that comes, Father Paul, actually is the younger version of the old Monsignor, but he doesn't tell anybody who he actually is because he was blessed by some sort of being, and that being he brought back with him from his trip to the Middle East, and this being is now blessing all of the residents who are partaking of communion. I'm really trying to be vague because I want it to be a surprise. Anybody watching, anybody rational, including some of the more rational characters within the series, would look at what's happening and think, this is insane. This cannot be the work of God. But the people there have twisted reality so much that they don't even see what's happening in front of them. I would love to have some sort of cult specialist go through the series and explain some of the language, explain the psychologically what was happening within the people. And I'll just say that Bev Keane gets her due in the end. And then we have the character of Father Paul.
You know what that thing is that's pointing us where we're going? Whether we know it or not, it's God. He was pointing you here, same way he was pointing me here.
So having been through 7 years of the seminary and a year and a half as a priest and all of my exposure before that to priests, I will say that most priests are genuinely trying to do the right thing. But what happens within the seminary is that there's this pressure to change your perspective on life, on reality. Everything that you do, everything that you say has a religious twist to it. That this is what they say, that you unify every part of your being, every part of your human experience to religion so that it makes sense. So I see so many times within the character of Father Paul that he's trying to do that.
God can take our work, even our awful works, and turn them into something else. I know he can find the good in them.
There are so many things that are happening that are unexplainable that he obviously did not learn in seminary or all of his experiences as a priest, but he was still trying to use the same language that he was brought up to use.
But I am here to tell you, redemption, body and soul, the miracles waiting for us here on Crockett Island. Not metaphors, not abstracts, no, rebirth, second chances.
And even when he comes face to face with normal human realities, like in the character of Riley, when they have a conversation and he's trying to help Riley, who doesn't believe anymore, who has doubts about the miraculous events that are happening, he's always trying to use the same religious language. It's almost like you can't have a normal conversation with somebody. The priest has to always be up here and bring people up to God. So when you're talking to them, when Riley is talking to Father Paul, it's almost like he's not even having a normal human conversation. Father Paul always has some ulterior motive to draw Riley back into believing. And that is a pressure that I know that I felt, and a lot of other people in the seminary felt, that they have to be this semi-divine being, this representative for the people. At every instant, every human interaction is a possible moment of God working through them to the people. And I want to reiterate that the language that he uses of suffering, of pain, of death, that is from the Catholic perspective is forced upon reality, forced upon this horrible situation that the community is going through, just to try to make sense of everything. And it went to such a limit that, objectively speaking, they were committing actions that were evil. For people inside or outside of religion, anyone would consider these actions evil. But because they had for so long forced this religious perspective upon reality, it wasn't that much of a leap to go one step further, another step further, until they were committing actions like the Heaven's Gate cult, where so many people took the poison and you know what happened. As people are dying and there's blood and gore and confusion and mayhem, there is still this idea that God is behind it all. And anytime anyone in the series, any of these faithful members of the parish are doubting what's happening, doubting that maybe what they're doing is good, then characters like the priest or Bev always has the right thing to say to convince them that this is the workings of God. So there's a lot of good things I could say about the series regarding the objective qualities, the cinematography, which was great, the story, which was very interesting, and how at the end there was a shift in everyone's perspective. There was a sense of peace that came where everyone found their right place and their right perspective. They did what they thought was best, and they went through this whole process and in the end found understanding. I could say a lot more, but I don't want to give everything away. In the comments down below, let me know if you saw the series, what you thought, if you have any insight from your own past experiences, and we can have a conversation. I'm really interested to maybe see different sides of it that I didn't pick up on the first time. I'd love to see the series again. Maybe I'll wait a few months and watch it again. And also let me know if there's any other series or movies that maybe would be interesting considering my past and my perspective, and something that you would like me to watch and comment about. Please give a thumbs up for the video, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and family about the channel. And if you are in a position to monetarily help this project, then you can go to my Ko-fi page. I'll leave a link down below, and you can give whatever amount that you're able to give. I appreciate everything. It is my income at this point, so I appreciate every cent that you send my way. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.